Today I'm portraying a Roman legionary of the 3rd century AD. 3rd century was a very difficult period for the Roman Empire. In 235 the emperor was assassinated and there was a civil war which lasted 50 years before things settled down again finally. Fortunately for Britain, it was actually on the outskirts of the fighting, and for Britain and for Leicester in particular it was a very prosperous period. But soldiers from Britannia crossed the Channel to go and join the fighting in the Civil War, supporting various emperors, and so this is the sort of kit they took with them. So first of all, you can see that I'm wearing a mail shirt. Could be scale as well as mail, but mail's probably a bit more common. And my lower legs are protected up to the kneecap by bronze greaves. These greaves are hinged so that you can bend your leg quite comfortably without them interfering with the movement, and they are very good protection. So in terms of military equipment, the pugio, the Roman dagger, is still being used as a backup weapon, and by now almost all of the units, all of the legions as well as the auxiliaries and cavalry are using long spatha swords rather than the gladius. And the spatha is much longer, primarily thought to be used for chopping, but is a very good stabbing weapon as well, plenty of reach on it. And also some of the features which show it to be 3rd century rather than any other period: the very wide baldricks which the swords hang on, and disc and hinged filigree decorations on the baldricks, which are very common. Also on the scabbard, the chape piece at the bottom, very fashionable to have disc chape pieces. The helmet's also change in appearance. Just before I put it on, you can see it's got a big heavy cross reinforcement on top. That's thought to have been brought in during the Dacian Wars, when the Dacians were using very heavy chopping scythes from above. Right, the helmet's locked into place with a hook on the front, which is a bit fiddly, but now you can see with the helmet got protection from cuts from above, pretty good face protection, and protection to my neck, which is the other target for any enemy, and also a big wide neck guard at the back, which was very unpopular with the troops. We actually know from a period piece of writing that the centurion complained about the size of the neck guard, saying that soldiers who were attacking forts find it difficult to look up on the walls to see the soldiers who are shooting at them, because they can't move their heads back easily. In terms of protection, they're still using the large rectangular scutum, although gradually a lot of legions were switching over to the oval clipius sword type of shield, and that will carry on until the end of the empire. The decoration on this shield is based on one that was found at Dura Europus in Syria, in a tunnel where it was placed during the siege. So the other thing that changes is the design of the pilum. The pilum, the throwing spear, had an extra weight added to it, a big lump of lead, and whilst it restricts its range slightly, it gives it a lot more penetration power. So even if you're hitting someone in greater armour, at this point we're starting to push on the Persian Empire, which is why Dura Europus was involved in battles. they're wearing more armour than most of the barbarians. So increased armour penetration is useful. So one of the other features we find is that some of the legionaries, in fact some whole legions, are described as Lancaria, and they are using small javelins which they carry in a quiver, and these have very sharp armour piercing heads, and they would advance close to the enemy in skirmish lines, so quite open order, throw their javelins at them to break up the enemy lines, and also form a screen to stop them doing the same to us. And then the main body of the legion will then hit the broken line, which is much easier to attack than a solid, well-formed line. So the other important piece of kit used by a lot of them, now we're seeing legionaries being trained in the use of the bow rather than having specialists. Roman recurve bow using arrows which have a variety of heads. We have a particular Roman arrowhead. You can see that one's got 3 lobes on it, and research tests have found that it's actually pretty poor at piercing armour, but because of the shape of the arrowhead, if it hits an unarmoured target, it does a lot of damage. There's an intermediate form with a small broadhead on, which is better at piercing armour, but again does a lot of damage. And then some have what we would recognise as modern style armour piercing, or medieval style armour piercing arrowheads. This is my portrayal of a 3rd century legionary ready to go into action.